Fred Thompson, tonight, his first debate. What do you expect from him?
It's hard to know. We haven't seen much of him out on the campaign trail, and I think it's going to be an interesting time when he joins the rest of us on the stage. Wish he'd have done it back in New Hampshire. I encouraged him to do what he said he wanted to do, and that was sit down one-on-one and have debates. He said he didn't like the format. I suggested that maybe we should sit down, and I'd be certainly willing to go an hour and a half in the old Lincoln-Douglas style debates, but he rejected that. So I'm glad he's going to be there tonight. I think people who have thought, okay, he's the guy, well, we'll find out tonight.
He has said that he is the one consistent conservative, is he?
Well, I think if you look at my record, you're going to find the most consistent conservative. I've never worked for an abortion rights group. In fact, I've helped pass pro-life legislation in my state, including a constitutional amendment. I've never wavered on that issue, nor on the Second Amendment. I've never wavered on my belief that smaller government, lower taxes are better. I think it's not just a matter of what I've said, but, you know, Tim, I was a governor in an executive position longer than anyone, Democrat or Republican, who's running for president this year. So that record backs up what I've said.
It is interesting watching these polls and listening to voters in the various states, particularly in a state like Iowa. Rudy Guiliani, someone who has been pro-abortion rights, pro-gay rights, pro-stem cell, embryonic stem cell research, pro-immigration. And yet, when you talk to people, Christian conservatives, social conservatives, despite reservations about him, they say overwhelmingly that he's the best candidate, the strongest candidate to defeat Hillary Clinton. Are they sacrificing their views and their principles for political pragmatism?
Well, Tim, I'm not hearing that same thing from Christian conservatives. In fact, I'm hearing quite the opposite, that they're looking for someone who can really be their candidate. And I think increasingly, we saw in the values voter debate, where I got more votes than all the other candidates put together, there's a rising wave among the social conservatives that they really do need to coalesce around one candidate, and increasingly coming to the conclusion that I am that candidate, not only because I can speak to the base, because I come from it, not just to it. But the other thing that I bring to the race is having a real record of being able to get votes that Republicans typically don't get. The first ever endorsement of the machinist and aerospace union workers in 119 years, the only Republican ever to do that. The only Republican to go to the National Education Association. Even though they don't necessarily agree with me on everything, they still recognize that I was the first Republican presidential candidate that ever showed up to speak to their convention. And in my state, a state where 90% of my legislature was Democrat, I consistently won, consistently got legislation passed. That's what America's looking for, somebody who keeps his principles and ideals and convictions, but also knows that the business of government is, at the end of the day, making things happen and getting results.
Governor Mitt Romney of Massachusetts has told Christian conservatives that he's changed his opinion on abortion and modified some of his other views. Is he being listened to? Or can you out-debate him on those issues in terms of having been there first?
Well, the good thing for me is I don't have to explain the positions I used to have, because the ones that I used to have are the ones that I still have, and people can be pretty assured that they're the ones I'm going to have. So I think it's just simply easier for me to talk about those issues, because I only have to talk about one side of them.
What do you tell Christian conservatives about abortion, Governor? Would you, as president, outlaw abortion all across America, make it a crime?
You know, Tim, I think sometimes in this discussion we lose sight. What the real issue is whether or not that is a human life. If it is a human life, then that really defines the debate. And for me, it's a human life. And we should do everything possible to recognize the intrinsic value and worth of each individual. And that would be whether that individual is, you know, a 3 or 6 month old baby in the mother's womb, or whether it's, you know, a 70 or 80-year-old patient of Alzheimer's in a long-term care facility. The respect of human life, the recognition of its value and worth, that every individual should have the dignity of being held up as being worth caring for. That really is what the issue for me is all about.
How would you implement that? Would you say to people all across
I would love to see, yeah, I would love to see, you know, that abortion is the same way that we treat euthanasia, that you don't have the legal right to take an innocent life for only the convenience of somebody else's life. And that's really what is at discussion. We're not talking about, you know, trying to salvage the mother's life biologically, and I know that sometimes people get wrapped up into that. We're talking about when you have an option of simply saying, this child is getting in my way economically or socially, or it's going to interrupt my education, or hey, it's just coming at an inconvenient time. You know, when that decision is that I'm going to sacrifice one human being for the convenience of another, that really goes against the very heart and soul of what has made our civilization what it is today.
After the first debate, Governor, I uttered 3 words about you, Mr. Vice President. How do they sound?
Not nearly as good as Mr. President, but you know, you're getting closer, Tim. I mean, you know, if you get those 3 words down to 2, I think we're getting there. You know, as I've often said, nobody goes into the Olympic Games saying, you know, Mom, what I really want is a silver medal. It's all I've ever wanted in life. And I can assure you that, you know, I'm going for the gold. And I think at the end of the day, when this process continues, that's where I'll be.
But I know Big Russ, my dad, if I took the silver, he'd be pretty happy. Would you take the silver?
You know, I'm not even running for vice president. I will only say this. It is the job nobody wants and nobody turns down. But that's not my goal out here. I'm running for president, not vice president. But, you know, you got to have some sense of, if you're me, at least the flattery, people saying, well, if he could be vice president, he could be president. And therefore, at this stage of the game, I'll accept that, but I'm more excited about, by the time we get through the Iowa caucuses, people will be saying Huckabee's going to be the nominee. And you're going to see the momentum continue to build over the next 2 and 3 months leading up to the caucuses.
You're going to win the Iowa caucus?
I think we will. I really do. You know, one of the things that came out of that poll the other day, not only were we moving forward into 3rd place, strong position, but among the voters who said they were absolutely solid in who they were going to support, I was in the 1st place, #1 position. So the voters who are with me are really with me. And the point is, with limited resources, if you look at where we are, even in the national polls, we've spent a nickel to the $100 bill of some of these guys. It's not that I'm depressed thinking where we are. Heck, I'm pretty encouraged. If I were some of these guys who had spent tens of millions of dollars and weren't any further ahead, I'd have to be sitting in a warm tub of water with some razor blades in both hands at this point saying, how much money does one have to spend, you know, to get on track? I think it's not so much about how much we've raised, but we've got more money in the bank, cash on hand, than some of the campaigns that have raised unbelievable amounts of money.
Governor Mike Huckabee, good luck today in the debate. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tim. Good to talk to you.